Frazier! Joe Frazier! Joe Frazier! Joe Frazier!
When Muhammad Ali challenged Joe Frazier for their third and most momentous encounter in the ring, he began throwing the punches early.
It will be a thriller and a chiller and a killer when I get the gorilla in Manila. Frazier!
In a thinly veiled racial taunt, Ali used his command of the world's media to caricature Frazier as an ignorant savage.
He is the ugliest man in boxing.
If I'm a gorilla, he got to be from the same ancestor. He must be a gorilla too.
By the time of the fight, Frazier was spitting blood. The thriller in Manila was going to be the settling of old scores.
When they met in the ring, they weren't really fighting for the heavyweight championship of the world so much as they were fighting for the championship of each other.
Ali and Frazier were always on a collision course. Their boxing styles, personalities, and politics a clash waiting to happen. Their early duels were tainted by the backdrop of war and racial tension in America in the early 70s.
He's the Uncle Tom. He works for the enemy.
These two fighters were determined to kill one another.
The scars of those battles escalated their final epic meeting into one of the most punishing contests boxing has ever seen.
And the thriller in Manila was the survival of the fittest and the battle of the wills.
The final round of the fight is the story of how Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier took each other to the very brink.
I don't know when I've seen Ali in as aggressive mood as this, not for years.
That's the best fight Ali's ever fought, and the closest to life and death, and the most dramatic, and the saddest, and the most intense. Now ask me whatever you want to ask me.
Will it go the distance, or will one of these collapse before the end?
Ali said that it was the closest thing to death he knew of, and I'm sure Joe felt pretty much the same way.
The fight to the finish between the two arch enemies, and they must have very nearly thrashed the hate out of each other by now.
The world heavyweight title fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier was staged in Manila in the Philippines in 1975. Dictator Ferdinand Marcos paid $5 million to secure the event. Despite a state of martial law, it put his country in the international spotlight and distracted from his domestic problems for 6 weeks.
The president of the Philippines needed it because the guerrillas were getting very active in the hills. The rebels wouldn't fight as long as we were in town. They'd filter down and watch the training.
Mr. President, what do you think this sort of fight will do for the Philippines?
Well, it does publicize the Philippines that we have peace and order.
Plane loads of fight fans also helped rejuvenate the failing national airline. Ali was given 70 tickets.
Well, that's like the birth of the Ali Circus. Anybody want to go to Manila? You know, I mean, we have all these riffraff on our airplane. In Manila, with a free expense account at the hotel, free hotel, free drink. I mean, it was an orgy of eating and long-distance phone calling and stuff.
Ali was so famous as a boxer and personality that he could draw a crowd anywhere in the world.
We thank the President, the First Lady, for accepting us here and taking the time out from the business schedule to accept us here today.
Muhammad changed the whole innovation of boxing. You got to talk to the star. Before, you never talked to the star. You talked to the manager, the trainer, the cousin, the wife, the aunt. Never spoke to the star. The star was Muhammad Ali. Everybody else is secondary characters.
In Manila, Ali was followed by a press pack of 800, including the BBC's boxing commentator, Harry Carpenter.
This is a worldwide event. Everyone in the world is going to watch this fight. When a place like Manila gets an event like that, the whole city goes berserk. I mean, they go mad. It was electric.
In the build-up to the fight, Ali eased into a well-honed publicity routine.
Come on, girl, we in Manila.
Ali was one of those people who built himself up by tearing his opponents down psychologically. He was trying to establish his psychological domination over Joe Frazier.
How you feel, Joe? I'm in good shape, you know what I mean? My left hook's in shape. I mean, I think I'll get this man. I mean, I'm pretty fast. I mean, yeah, this, maybe, you know what I mean?
He's supposed to be from the same ancestor, unless he had some kind of different kind of thing going on in his family. And if I'm a gorilla, he got to be from the same ancestor. He must be a gorilla, too.
Back up, boy. Where you going?
Frazier grew to detest and despise his charismatic rival.
No, we walking off the show. It's not right to leave the show.
So how did the healthy competition between two great athletes, both black and both from the American South, turn so sour? Joe Frazier had to struggle for everything in life. He was the youngest of 12 children, born into a poor family in Beaufort County, South Carolina. He left home at 15, became a father at 16, and eventually settled in the boxing city of Philadelphia. By day, he worked in an abattoir, and by night, he followed a childhood dream to be the next Joe Louis. It took Frazier more than a year to find a deal with a syndicate called Cloverley, and then he began to power his way through the ranks. In his first 2 years, he won all 19 of his fights. His corner nicknamed him Smoking Joe, saying his gloves could make smoke. Then just when Frazier had world champion Ali within his sights, he was robbed of the chance to fight him.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhammad Ali has just refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces.
At the height of his powers, Ali was stripped of his heavyweight title and banned from boxing for 3.5 years for refusing the draft to Vietnam. As a recent convert to the black separatist group Nation of Islam, Ali said he wouldn't help America oppress another nation when its own black people lacked civil rights.
Muhammad had his own opinions, his own ideas, and he did what he felt was right. This was Muhammad. So I knew what he was doing was sincere and honest, and that's what I told people.
What might this do to your boxing career?
No comments on the boxing career, no comments on nothing. I just face the judge, and that's all I have to face is the judge.
Ali's stand cost him his livelihood, his passport, and almost earned him a prison sentence. His stance was seen as unpatriotic by many Americans.
Do you think there's anything wrong in someone like Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, in refusing induction?
Yes, sir, I certainly do.
Why?
Because he's no better than the rest of us.
Mr. Clay, when
Muhammad Ali, sir.
Mr. Clay,
Muhammad Ali, sir.
Mr. Muhammad Ali, either
yes,
one.
Just Muhammad Ali.
When you appear
Ali felt persecuted by the American establishment.
You just can't take a man's title out of the ring. You gotta, that's never been done in history. And all type moves have been made against me that's never been made before in history of boxing.
While Frazier didn't agree with Ali's religion or radical politics, he stood up for Ali's right to earn a living by boxing.
Joe was good to him. He gave Ali a little bit of money from time to time. He arranged for certain joint publicity stunts that kept Ali's name in public view and helped him make a few dollars more.
Most of all, Frazier wanted Ali back in the ring so that he could prove himself a true champion by beating him. The moment finally came at Madison Square Garden in New York in 1971. It was billed as the fight of the century, a unique clash between two unbeaten men. Having supported Ali's comeback, Frazier was surprised and hurt when Ali turned on him during the pre-fight publicity.
Number one, he's ugly. He has no rhythm, no footwork, no class. He cannot talk. And who told him he could sing? He cannot.
thing about it, see, you might don't be able to cross. I gotta do over you. You can't wait, man. You gotta put
In the build-up to the fight, Ali started to portray Frazier as an Uncle Tom figure in the power struggle between black and white that was dividing America at the time.
He's the Uncle Tom. He's the other type Negro. He's not like me. There's two type slaves. Joe Frazier's worse than you to me. One day he might be like me, but as of now, he works for the enemy.
Calling Frazier an Uncle Tom was accusing him of being a white man's lackey.
He started making comments like, well, only white people and sheriffs are rooting for Joe Frazier. There came a point where who you were rooting for in that fight was really a litmus test for where you stood on the war, where you stood on civil rights. It was more than a fight.
The Ali campaign was so relentless that many black people turned on Frazier. He received death threats and his children were bullied at school.
Muhammad had gotten under his skin something brutal, and I could see the reaction be like that. He wanted to really destroy Muhammad.
Ali was calling him a white man. I mean, Joe Frazier, a white man? He was so black, it was like the inside of a coal mine. So Frazier was waiting to kill him.
On fight night, Ali underestimated Frazier's power, stamina, and desire to punish him for the insults.
And Clay beckons him back. Frazier really goes after him, and he's got him with a left hook. He's done it once too often. Clay's in trouble. Round 11. He's hurt. He nearly went down.
As the fight was in progress, Ali said, "You know you're in the ring with God." And Frazier said, "Well, if you're God," he says, "you're in the wrong place tonight."
Muhammad Ali trying to regain his title from the present champion, Joe Frazier. And who's to say at this point that he won't do it?
Moments later, Frazier achieved the unthinkable.
Oh, there it is! The left hook! Frazier's at last caught up with him.
He knocked Ali down for only the second time in his professional career. Frazier got the judge's decision and he became the first man to defeat Muhammad Ali. He was truly heavyweight champion of the world.
The winner by unanimous decision, Joe Frazier.
But Ali didn't see it that way. He had placed such importance on winning that he was ungracious in defeat.
I think I won on points. If you look at Frazier's face and look at mine, there's no comparison. I'm sure I hit him 3 times more than he hit me if you watch the film. And when I do come back, I'll have more of a hungrier determination, which is something you lose in the intoxication of so-called greatness.
Ali wanted another crack at the title, but Frazier was in no hurry. Instead, in 1973, he took on another fighter from the South, Texan ring giant George Foreman. It proved to be a shattering experience.
And he's got him with a right hand.
Frazier just didn't know how to cope with Foreman's wrecking ball style.
Double right hand. There it is, and he's over again.
George Foreman was impressive in those days. He was like Liston. He just overwhelmed you and beat you into the canvas.
And he's got this title in his Frazier doesn't know where he is, and over he goes.
Frazier was knocked down 6 times in the first 5 minutes. After 3 years at the top, he was just another contender like Ali. So it was Ali who went forward to tackle Foreman in Zaire in 1974, in a fight famously marketed as the Rumble in the Jungle.
Good round from Foreman, this one. He's made all the running.
Foreman seemed invincible as Ali looked trapped and helpless on the ropes. But this was all tactical, and Foreman was spectacularly outmaneuvered in perhaps the greatest boxing comeback of all time.
Oh, he's got him with a right hand. He's got him. Oh, you can't believe it. And he's doing his shuffle. And I don't think Foreman's going to get up. He's trying to beat the count, and he's out. Oh my God, he's won the title back at 32.
Ali was back on top of the world, and he now threw Frazier a bone.
Everybody
One last meeting in Manila. Ali would get $4 million and Frazier $2 million towards his retirement fund.
Joe Frazier was considered shot. And the feeling in the Ali camp was that Ali Frazier III was going to be a fairly easy payday.
But they underestimated how much Frazier wanted his title back, and how much he wanted to humble Ali for all the years of taunting. He was going to war.
A good soldier goes out to win, and don't care what the situation is, you know, he goes at it as a soldier. That's the way I look at it.
The scene was perfect. The Thriller in Manila with the gorilla. But you know, I don't want to go on with the adjectives.
Welcome to Manila in the Philippines. This is Super Fight 3, the Thriller in Manila, the showdown between Muhammad Ali, the champion, and his arch enemy and rival, Joe Frazier, the former champion.
The day of the fight was declared a national holiday. 28,000 people crammed their way into the Coliseum Stadium, 6 miles from the capital.
31 years old, who reigned as
There was not a seat left in the gym. And there I lie. It was not just a seat. There was not any space. I mean, the aisles were filled. I mean, if you had to go to the bathroom, tough luck.
the challenger enters the ring.
Worse than that, they had the ribs of the construction were open. On the ribs all the way through were people hanging on there. How they didn't fall in the ring, I don't know.
33 years old, the most amazing heavyweight champion of all time. Frazier eyes him as Ali gets into the ring.
As the fighters were introduced, Ali took the first psychological point.
And Ali says, that will be mine. And he claims it already and takes it to his corner. Frazier tries to take no notice. And here we go with Super Fight 3. Ali, gloves high, exaggeratedly so.
Having fought 27 rounds in the ring together, Ali and Frazier had few secrets from each other. Each had developed formidable strategies to make the most of their different physiques. At 5'11", Frazier was 4 inches shorter than Ali.
One of the things that astonishes me now is to think that Frazier was giving away so much in weight. He looks very small now to me. He didn't at the time. And he was conceding 6.5 inches in reach, which is an enormous amount.
Ali took the first round after an unusually aggressive opening assault.
There's the bell. And Frazier gives him a little pat at the end of the first round, just to try to say, I'm all right, you know. But he wasn't all right for a bit.
It looked as if the Thriller would live up to its billing as a grudge match, played out live before an audience of millions around the world.
If you were alive in any country in the world, you were almost guaranteed to know that those two men were going to step into a prize ring, and you had a rooting interest in it.
Across America, fans paid to see the fight on big screens in cinemas and stadiums, transmitted via closed-circuit television link. They wanted to watch the Ali-Frazier rivalry unfold and be both thrilled and repelled by its brutal art.
Essentially, that's what we make in 20th century America. We make spectacle. We make sporting events. We make movies. We make things that people see that inspire them.
But to reach the lucrative prime-time US audience, the fight had to start at 10:45 in the morning in the Philippines, the hottest part of the day. Extra lights added to the temperature.
The ring lights were overly bright because it was the beginning era of international television, and so we were making sure we got a good picture. But those lights...
While the global television audience took part in a very modern experience, the huge crowd at ringside was participating in a rite as primal as any gladiatorial contest in ancient Rome.
The excitement, people waiting to see what's going to happen. The one punch could have changed the whole affair. There's nothing bigger than a heavyweight title fight. Everybody gets turned on.
From the safety of their seats, the spectators joined Ali and Frazier on a journey into the best and worst of human nature.
We'll see. Whatever happens.
You realize you are in the presence of great courage and great fear, a great nobility and great bestiality. They are literally squaring off.
Taking their best punches.
But both men have both, and both are in you.
By round 5, Frazier was at last getting into the fight and finding a way around Ali's jab. He kept coming forward, pushing Ali back towards the ropes.
Trying to get the upper hand of each other. Ali leans with one hand on the rope. He's playing about a lot now.
Then Frazier caught Ali with a big left hook, his best punch of the contest so far.
These two freighting punches as though there's no tomorrow.
It was one hell of a fight. I thought Ali was winning the fight. I thought he was outboxing Joe, but Joe was landing some hard, some vicious punches.
Frazier was beginning to get through Ali's defenses and do some damage. The thriller was becoming an epic struggle for supremacy.
We said it would be a grudge fight, and that's what it is.
Fighting with controlled fury, Frazier was unleashing years of humiliation. Fresh in his mind were Ali's guerrilla taunts that cast him in the image of an ignorant, shuffling black man.
Come on, gorilla, we in Manila. Joe Frazier! Joe Frazier!
And he's still there, and he is very, very aggressive and very dangerous.
By round 6, Frazier was in the ascendant, buoyed up by his desire to conquer Ali. Joe was starting to smoke.
He got right in on that one.
Frazier came on, and then Frazier came on, and then Frazier came on, to the point where at one point they were right over us. Ali was in a clinch on the ropes, and he says to him, and they told me you were through, Joe. And Joe said, they lied, champ, they lied, and hit him on the side. It sounded like a bass drum go, oh my God, we're in for a long night tonight.
Frazier gives this appearance of being so strong that he can go on doing this sort of thing forever.
Joe just kept coming right through anything Ali had. He was just indomitable. He was a locomotive going through, a wall of straw. I mean, we couldn't think of a way to stop him from coming through.
Round 6, and this has been Frazier's round all the way. As the bell, Frazier's round all the way. And he smiles as he goes back to the court.
They had now been fighting for half an hour in a temperature of 110 degrees.
It was a season where it rained 10 minutes and it was through for half an hour, and then it came back and rained half an hour, and then it was through for 10 minutes. It was like being inside of a boiling pot of tea. I mean, it was just oppressive.
There wasn't a breath of wind coming off the South China Sea.
There was no air conditioning. The people who had built the arena left the space about that high between the roof and what was beneath it, and the wind was supposed to blow in and cool everybody off. Well, of course it didn't.
For the opponents in the ring, the heat was becoming another enemy to overcome. By round 8, Ali was trying to change the pattern of the fight. He came out to meet Frazier in the middle of the ring.
Tremendous attack, and his legs for a moment went. Frazier's legs went for a moment there. The punches reached right down into his boots.
But Frazier kept on coming and pushed Ali back onto the ropes. He was steadily evening up the fight.
Ali puts in the early work and then relaxes or tires. I'm not sure which it is. He may tire halfway through the round.
It was now that the thoroughness of their training would be put to the test. Which one had the stamina to see it through? After months of preparation, the fighters had 6 weeks in Manila to acclimatize to the tropics.
She's the prettiest girl I saw.
While Ali divided his time between work and play, Frazier was single-minded in his application.
Joe went to the gym, he trained. He went to the gym, he trained. He'd relax between training sessions, then he'd go back to the gym and train. I mean, Joe was all boxing. Ali really liked distractions.
The ultimate distraction for Ali was his 18-year-old girlfriend, Veronica Porsche. He took her to Manila, leaving his wife Belinda at home.
The reason we had the Manila fight was because he was trying to get away with his wife and have 6 weeks of quality time with his number one mistress, Veronica, who was the most gorgeous black girl I think I've ever seen in my life. He needed 6 weeks of quality fun, and he got caught in the most grandstand way I've ever seen.
When Ali was presented to President Marcos and his wife Imelda, he passed Veronica off as his wife.
My mother, my wife, my father, everybody's happy to meet the president. My mother, my wife, my father, everybody's happy to meet the president.
Go on national television, CNN, international television, and the president says, you know, your wife is very pretty. And Ali says, yeah, and yours ain't bad either. Well, God, that's got to make the press. I mean, that's high time blowing your marriage.
The public humiliation, understandably, was too much for Belinda to bear. So she got on an airplane, flew over to Manila, had a very loud face-to-face with Muhammad, during which she told him exactly what she thought of the situation, then got back on the same plane and flew back to the United States.
Ali claimed that he was stimulated by controversy, but some in his camp were anxious that he was underestimating Frazier.
I go over and watch Frazier train. I come back and say, hey, this guy's for real. He's not here just to lose and pick up $5 million. He's here to kill you. The guy is really mad.
After 10 rounds, the judges' scorecards showed that Ali and Frazier had taken 5 rounds apiece. Both were profoundly weary. It was now a test of wills to see who would prevail.
It's not about boxing ability anymore. It's about strength and sheer determination and gut and the ability to stay there.
Well, you never saw a fight like that before because it got more intense as it went along. And when you think Muhammad was fading, he would come back. Joe Frazier was fading, he came back.
So once again, this round swings first one way, then the other.
This was like watching a demographic of Wall Street, the market, up and down, up and down.
Somewhere they find strength again, these two, in one of the hardest fights for years.
In the stadium, the heat and tension were rising all the time.
I had a towel soaked in ice, and as soon as I'd come down from there, I just put the whole towel over my head, and I still felt woozy all through that fight. I looked at Angelo and I said, one of us is going to have a heart attack here or faint from heat. And this guy's fighting in it.
The pressure is intense, and Ali looks tired. He looks very tired.
And I told him, well, now you got to separate the men and the boys. Suck it up. Naturally, the ice down the trunks, ice behind his neck, a little pinch here and there.
The fight to the finish between the two arch enemies. They must have very nearly thrashed the hate out of each other by now.
All through this fight, I could not tell which way it was going to go. You couldn't forecast the ending. Anything could have happened.
Frazier comes forward again, head down.
In the 12th round, Ali cut Frazier above the eye and his face began to swell, affecting his vision. Ali scented an opportunity.
Ali noticed it and he started throwing more punches to that area.
Be a good round by most people's standards.
As well as his swollen right eye, Joe had a more serious handicap. a cataract on his left eye. He was to keep this secret for more than 30 years.
What we didn't know till just last year, was that he was blind in one eye. Legitimately blind going into the year, and the Filipino doctor never looked at it. And he couldn't see on either eye.
Comes in, drapes himself over Ali. He said he'd looked right up his nose hole.
At this stage, now you look at Frazier's face, it's beginning to get very puffed. He's taking a lot of punches in that face. The arms look a bit leaden, as though he's having a problem to really pump them out. It's the first time, I think, in the fight where you begin to think to yourself that Frazier's suffering a bit more than Ali. And yet he still takes Ali's best punches and comes on.
Punches again from Ali, but Frazier won't be stopped.
Heart. Yeah, that's what Frazier had lots of, heart.
Got Ali in front, but only marginally. Not a winning lead by any means.
Ali sensed Frazier's sudden vulnerability. Somehow he dragged up energy from some hidden reserve to step up a gear.
We've got 3 rounds to go, and it's all going to be decided on these 3.
Frazier continued to stalk Ali, but he was surprised by a big right that sent his gum shield flying into the press seats.
There goes the gum shield of Frazier, knocked clean out of his mouth by right hand.
Now he's fighting without a gum shield, which is dangerous. I'm surprised the referee hasn't stopped and asked for the gum shield to be put back.
Frazier in trouble. Round 30.
The gum shield was a sign to Frazier's corner that he was in serious trouble.
He couldn't control the mouthpiece in his mouth. So Eddie knew the reflexes were starting to get dulled up. So that's why Eddie knew his fighter.
And Ali is not slow to see the chance.
I said, I'm going to give him the 14th round just to see if Ali would slow down. Because he's throwing so many punches, he can't throw that many punches this late in the fight. He's got to slow down a bit.
There is a limit to the amount of trauma the body can absorb and still function. Ali was exhausted and Frazier had taken a terrible beating, but still neither was prepared to back down.
It's quite terrifying when you look back and see some of the punches they take. You almost say to yourself, should this be allowed?
But this was exactly the kind of action the crowd had come to see.
They want to see who's the toughest, who said they're the toughest. People always want to go see the big guy, you know, they want to see the big guys hit and everything and how they take it.
People want to see action. They don't want to see a 15-round exhibition of bobbing and weaving.
And the pair of them rocking and reeling now under this savage attack from either side.
They want to see punches, they want to see knockdowns, they want to see guys hurt, and they want to see a high skill level.
Frazier's mouth badly busted now. A lot of blood coming from Frazier's mouth.
Frazier's body was beginning to fail him, but his will to win was so strong that he was pushing himself beyond the limits of fatigue.
There's a reason fatigue makes cowards of us all. There's a reason nature builds that in. And when you fight past that limit, things can happen and people can die in here.
Frazier looking as though he's coming to a standstill.
You know you don't go in there to hurt about the person or damage him like that. I mean, you're going there to do your job. And your job isn't to hurt someone in there. But if it's happened, then that's your fault.
In boxing, there's a fine line between protecting the boxer and satisfying the demands of the paying public.
And Frazier looks almost on his last legs at the finish there. That's a big round for Ali.
The spectators don't want the fight to be stopped too quickly. They want to see a fight. It's cruel to say that, but they paid for a ringside seat or wherever it is in the arena, and that they came to see a fight.
Both Ali and Frazier were aware they were playing a dangerous game in the name of entertainment. In 1962, Frazier's friend, welterweight champion Emil Griffith, fought a tragic title fight against the Cuban Benny Kid Perret.
Round one, scheduled for 15. Griffith in the black trunks, Perret in white. The third meeting of the two, they've each won one.
I didn't go in there to hurt him in any way, but things happen.
Like Ali Frazier, it was the third time they had met and the decider. Like them, too, there was a grudge that raised the stakes of the fight. Both were immigrants to the United States in search of a better life. Griffith was a hatmaker from the Virgin Islands. 24-year-old Perret was a sugarcane cutter from Cuba who'd arrived in America on a raft of wood and tires. Perret taunted Griffith, calling him a homosexual for being in the rag trade.
At the weigh-in before the fight, Emil said to me, if he says anyone, makes any one of those kind of remarks to me, he said, I'm going to hit him right here now at the weigh-in. I said, sure, fine, then we won't have a fight. You're not going to get the money that you trained so hard to get, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So at the weigh-in, Perret made a remark about Griffith, and Emil kept control of himself.
In the 12th round, Perret retreated to the ropes.
The Cuban fighters, they had a way of going against the ropes and making out they were hurt, and then they'd come rallying out. And that was one of their tricks that they always did.
But this time, Perret didn't rally.
Perret against the ropes, almost helpless.
Griffith hit Perret with 17 punches in 5 seconds. His assault was eventually stopped by referee Ruby Goldstein. Perret died 10 days later.
There's two sides to the story. When I see he was hurt, I would have backed off. But I did not realize that he was hurt, and I kept on punching. It was a referee part to go and stop the fight if he wanted to.
Ruby Goldstein couldn't have stopped the fight, because if he would have stopped it, there would have been a riot in Madison Square Garden, because all of the Cuban people there would have said that Benny wasn't hurt, he was only faking it, you know.
Griffith being announced as the welterweight champion. However, the story right now is Benny Kid Perret, as Griffith comes over to console with him. And Dr.
I'm sorry that it happened, and it happened in such a crazy way that I couldn't understand myself. I cannot bring it back anymore, but if I have to do it all over again and I can do it, I'll do it.
I do remember seeing 3 men die in the ring right in front of me. Get killed in the ring right in front of me. For us, you find out about it later, so-and-so died, oh, that's too bad. But that next fighter that goes into that ring, he lives with that realization, I can die in here.
Smelling salts being waved under the nose of Frazier. His mouth bleeding. Not looking quite as though he knows where he is.
Frazier may have realized that he was on the brink of collapse, but he would never be the one to give in.
Will it go the distance, or will one of these collapse before the end? 6 minutes fighting left.
Frazier put as much of himself into that fight as any fighter ever put into a fight, except maybe what Muhammad Ali put into that fight.
Bill Ali has never managed to have Frazier off his feet. Not at any time in 3 fights. But he looks as though he might do it now.
He closed the show. That's what we say. Close the show, man. That's what he did. So that's what he was. The supreme actor. He closed the show.
Frazier standing still now, not knowing where he is and having to take anything Ali cares to throw
The
him.
14th round was just a turkey shoot.
Yelling almost hysterically.
Left and right and left and right and left and right. Why he was still standing is only a tribute to Joe's incredible courage. and toughness.
Frazier's left eye is shutting. His mouth is bleeding. And for the first time, he's looking an out-and-out loser. The pace, the exhaustion, the punching has got to Frazier at last.
Look how wild Frazier's punches are becoming. He's just swinging. I mean, this is desperation. This is real desperation.
Screaming all over the ring. And Ali can take him out if he's got the strength.
All Ali had to do was walk 5 feet, 6 feet, and blow on him, and the fight would have been over. Ali could not walk those 5 or 6 feet. That's how much these two guys left in the ring.
The Ali corner yelling to the referee.
Of the 30 right punches Ali threw in this brutal round, 9 landed on Frazier's right eye. He was now virtually fighting from memory.
We're coming to the end of the round. There it is. And Frazier reels about the ring on rubber legs.
When the bell went, the referee had to guide Frazier to his corner. With just 1 round to go, Eddie Futch had to make the most difficult decision of his life.
And that corner are in real trouble. Really desperate trouble.
I said, I can't let him get hurt. And said, he's at the place in this fight now where 1 punch can do it.
And somebody in that corner wants to stop the fight. Somebody in Frazier's corner is saying he ought to be stopped.
Eddie Futch, years of training, knocked all of the potentials out of his mind for money, or if we win and we're the champ, we'll get to defend and there'll be more money for me. He didn't see any of that. He saw Frazier's eye. If he hooks with the left, you won't see it. You could get hurt. You could get hurt bad. You could die. I can't live with that. That's the end of the fight.
Somebody in Frazier's corner wants to stop the fight.
I said, it's all over, Joe. He jumped up. I said, sit down. Tapped him on the shoulder, sit down.
They're arguing about it.
And I told him, I'm not letting him come out for the 15th round.
And Eddie Futch is calling it off. He's calling it off. It's all over, and Muhammad Ali at the end of the 14th round is a TKO winner. He did it in the end, the hardest fight of his life.
Now at this point, I was sitting on Ali's side of the ring, and after he stood up and acknowledged the crowd's cheers, he fell down in his corner. He was so exhausted.
And they're having to hoist him off the floor and get him back to his corner. He doesn't know where he is. The winner is out. And he's in just as bad a way as Joe Frazier, but it was Frazier who had to go first.
Neither of them could go any deeper. Ali said afterward that it was the closest thing to death he knew of. And I'm sure Joe felt pretty much the same way.
First you take my heart in the palm of your hands and you squeeze it tight. Then you take my mind and play with it all night.
Manila took both men to the edge of human capability. Joe Frazier was the loser, but he had won the respect of millions, including, finally, Muhammad Ali.
He's great. He's greater than I thought he was. He is tough. He's a great fighter. I'm so tired, I don't want to do nothing. I want to rest for 1 week.
Manila left a lasting legacy on both fighters. Frazier retired a year later because of his failing eyesight. Ali fought on until 1981, boxing damage finally bringing down the curtain on a remarkable 21-year career. But the thriller in Manila will always be remembered as the most inspiring display of courage and skill ever seen in a boxing ring.
The third Ali Frazier fight was not just the best fight I saw Ali fight. It was the best fight I saw anybody fight.
I mean, from lightweights to welterweights to flyweights to heavyweights, I never saw a fight like that.
A guy who pulls it out through the use of sheer willpower. I'm not going to lose, you're going to lose.
And that was Ali at his best.
The Ali Frazier trilogy constitutes the pyramids of boxing. There have been other great rivalries in sports, but I don't think there has ever been a sports rivalry that captured the imagination of the world. There hasn't been anything remotely like it in the history of boxing, and probably never will be again.
Oh, it was a thriller in Manila.